and forth with the Loyalists card here. First, the Adui grabbed some warbands, did some scouting, and using the event. But then the Averni came back, did a rally action. They had a huge amount of cash stowed up, and that got them a lot of troops. They still are in the lead in money. And then they did an entreat to grab one additional. So now they're in position to do an ambush if they want there. I'm not sure they really want to, but if they do it, they can also make an attack here. That won't work though, because the fort it'll only do a half point of damage. I need one more unit for that to work. Crapola to shift the cards and started taking the Balgay action, and I'm glad I caught it in time. I rewound. The Remy influence card is very potent. If you control Remy as a Roman ally, you replace one or two allies within one region of Remy with Roman allies, or a Gallic faction with Remy as an ally may remove anything at Alesia or Cynebem and place a citadel there with 4 warbands. This is Cynebem. What is the other one? Alesia, which is of course here. So I could get an established presence in one of these two. This one with its 3 value is the better one to move into, I think. Oh boy, that may mean I've got first option on this card that I may want to pass. Now, the danger is if I do that, and I'm obviously signaling that I want to do this, and the Romans move in on me, then I don't get to attack. Then I get the choice of either the first attack on them or taking the card. However, the Romans probably don't want to give me that choice because I will batter the Romans. Being the guy who moves into an area, it's always dangerous. So I may be best off taking a buck and positioning myself for that card. And that leaves it on the Romans. What do they want to do? I think they want to do their move, gather their forces, and see what they can do, because they're going to want to try to get themselves in a position where they can get this point value up. Use the card to push their way into there, but the Adui come back with a rally action, pushing their way in, and then subording, which is always of value. This Brennus Bridge, that's going to screw around with the Germans, but it could also really mess the Romans up. If a legion is within one region of Germania, which they are, Romans are at -6 resources and ineligible through the next card. That probably I cannot afford to let happen, so I'm going to have to take this either as the event, which can wipe out a bunch of Germans. That doesn't look particularly promising. Germans are largely to my advantage as long as they're not putting caps on things. if they're building someplace, that could be a problem. But that may mean that I take just the command. Let's just move down here into Sequani. They do not take a special activation because they do not want this event to be played, which means the Averni could pass, but they're not going to get a shot at this next card, they don't think. So they did a limited command. They did a crap. They cheated. Limited command's only one region. I did 2 battles. I should have only gotten 1. I believe that's the net effect. So I chased the Adui out. I'm more worried right now about the Adui winning the game, or basically the 2 people who are close are the Averni and the Adui. The Averni have to kill legions. That may be difficult, but there are a couple exposed, which will help. By the way, victory is assessed right here. So you don't go through, you don't get to see if the Germans knock things, change things. You don't get to see if the winter campaign, that's not going to get a chance to do anything. Ah, crap, I've been forgetting this capability, haven't I? Yep. I don't know how much it's happened, but yeah. If Gallic take this card, each battle command, yeah, I think it's got to be your own battle commands, and they haven't been doing many, so that's probably safe. So now this one scares the hell out of me. I'm going to have to look shit up on it. And it was just sitting there on top, and I didn't really worry about it. But basically, you can march up to 8 pieces to a region that already has at least 2 other factions. So blue could, for example, move, well, that won't help. I don't know if there's anywhere that blue could really go. I mean, we could go beat up on the Roman fort there if we wanted, which might not be a terrible idea, but we really need to beat up on the Arverni. They're our goal, and we don't particularly want to hit the Romans at all. But we have to worry about, hey, can the Belgae use this badly? And then also, is this next card valuable? Because we have first and second pick on this, so if we pass, those guys will lose a turn, basically. Each faction drops to half its current resources, place 1 devastated marker. Each faction then removes pieces from each devastated region. But the questionable thing here is, well, one of the questionable things is, can I move into a region? What happens with the Germans? Will they attack if they join in? I think they will automatically attack someone, but that may be specified in the rules. Sometimes the playbook contains a little bit more information than the cards do in some cases. It doesn't look like the rules clarify that at all. My feeling is the Germans tend to be so violent about everything. They refuse everything. They're bad with everything. The only time they work together is when cards say they do. Well, that leaves me with 2 options. One is, no, they would not join in against the third faction. But the other is, they're Germans. They'll attack whatever they can. And I'm going to go with that latter interpretation. But this is the kind of thing, this is the kind of rule where I know somebody brought up, they wouldn't want to ever roll a die for a rule interpretation. This is one where I could see it. I'm making what is essentially just a random call here based on my own tastes. Now, possibly there's something online about it. I don't feel like this is the kind of thing that I want to run downstairs and look at. And honestly, I don't feel like games with event cards, you should be looking up the event cards and trying to figure out what they specifically meant by going online and everything and trying to find questions for it. That's different than core mechanism. I don't know. I certainly did that kind of work with the events in EU. Some of them, not all of them. But this one, I feel like, the Germans would probably join in. So I think this kind of card is very, very hard to make work for you, though. Saw a massively ineffective attack here. Chose to take the losses on the Citadel. I wanted to stick around and see if I could keep it to me. Losing these war bands doesn't mean much, but if I can hold the Citadel, it's a big deal. I want to stay close to victory as much as I can. This might be someplace I can leverage. So I stuck there and took the hits on the Citadel. First off, every single one missed. 5 hits on them. It was an ambush, so it doesn't do a whole hell of a lot. Ooh, yeah. Did not ambush the Romans, could not. So yeah, and also beat up on some Germans over here, I guess. I hope I did. I hope that was legitimate. I have the fear there was an extra German there. I really wanted to clear those Belgae out of there. I think I may have cheated there, but I'm not sure. Okay, that puts things on the Belgae, who can take the event. I don't see anywhere I can use it except here, where I could attack either the Germans or the Romans. And I don't know how much value there is to that. Getting the jump up on something kind of nice, but the march and attack. But certainly don't want to attack the Germans. I don't think they could be useful to me. So I'm going to pass on that. I could take a limited command, but I get first shot at the next card. So instead I'm going to take a pass and take a buck. Whether or not I want the drought, I'm not sure, because I'm in an interesting position with the drought. It halves everybody's money. Well, I have kind of the least money out of everyone, but I also don't have as much capacity to produce money as the Dewey do. That's why they were willing to leave it out there. They're not high on the cash, and they have that. Vercingetorix is elite. Harsh punishments unpopular. Averni rally places warbands up to allies plus citadels, but not leader. I don't know. Roman style discipline. In any battles with their leader, Averni pick 4 Averni warbands. They take and inflict losses as if legions. Well, that's potent. That's very potent. The other side is the Averni rally places warbands up to allies. Oh. Let me see. I think I may have been doing this wrong. The Averni rally says each region, if Averni control or Vercingetorix gets an ally, or gets warbands equal to the number plus 1. It's that plus 1 I was missing. Yeah. Okay. And I don't know if I've been doing that. I may have been hurting them every time I've done it. A rally by a warband, which is pretty big. Oops. Okay. But that puts us on these guys, and I don't know what the hell to do with. The problem with this one is that I'm having trouble, more trouble than most of them, visualizing what the victory points are. And a lot of them have a single victory point thing that moves around, or a goal or something like that, and at least the ones I'm used to seeing. And I feel like I can assess the victory points very easily. But here, I feel like I've got a troublesome, and I know they've tried to present as many tools as they can, but I've got this troublesome situation. For the Romans and the Belgae, it's easy. But for the Aedui and for the Averni, I find it much, much harder to assess. How close are they? How far are they from their victory points? These guys I can see, yeah, they're kind of far away. But if I don't know the matching, here, we're at, I think, 2 behind right now. For the Averni, we're at least 3 behind because of the legions, and that's pretty much where we are. So, just to, you got to keep making that assessment each time. The Belgae did something they probably should have kept in their pocket, especially since I might forget what, I might not notice with the other players. This is the sort of the, how long can I hold this out? Which is the march to victory. I marched into a lot of different areas, grabbed control of them, shot my victory points way up. Now I do a rally. Yes, I don't have a lot of money. Or I do battles or whatever, and I can start building myself up. But I'm not going to be able to hold all of this. And I only did a command only on that. Nope, I did this. That meant the Romans have a limited command. What do they want? Do they want their limited command? $2 could give me that. Yeah, I want a fort. Forts are a good thing. Okay. A whole line of forts along the border there. And yeah, what that does for me is I blew the Dewey out of the way there. And so they're really kind of not in it anymore. They're a 5 versus 9. They're back 4 at this point, while the Belgae are actually ahead. But it frees up my possibility of marching and taking the Belgae on and starting to wipe them out, which I think all of this is likely to throw the game to the Averni. It's kind of the problem is you got to move against someone, you got to do something. These guys are in the lead. They have to go down, but then, you know, how far are the Averni? It's hard to tell. They're at 3 right now. If a legion falls, though, they're in worse shape. And there are a couple of legions that are available there. If people move against them, that changes the dynamic again. So trying to figure out where you are on the victory is somewhat difficult. And we have the elite, they probably want that. Celtic Rights, select one or more Gallic factions. Each loses 3 resources and is ineligible through the next card. That can trump you out, for this card and the next card. If, like, the Dewey do it, they could just blast the other 2 players. The Immortal Guards propitiated. A Gallic faction executes a free command in multiple regions. Stay eligible. That's a powerful option as well. So both of them are of interest. I think it's time to pause again for a while. My battery's dead. It's probably not actually charged. It was pretty low before. It's just lying. But I think it's almost time for me to work. Okay, so the Averni took their event, grabbing the capability for the elite. It was either that or not do a whole lot and just try to prevent these guys from getting a chance of using the event, because they would have damaged the Averni heavily with it. And the Dewey then passed because they want this Celtic Rights. Let's slip this. Forced marches, double time, relocate any of your warbands or legions in Auxilia, and our leader from any regions other than Britannia to any region other than Britannia. The pieces go hidden. If you need to reposition yourself quickly, let's say you have, forces that are too far away from the battle that you need to fight, whatever, that could be useful, but otherwise it doesn't look it. Interesting thing, I finally got an 8-hour sleep altogether. Unfortunately, it was right after work. I wake up, I missed some events in an online thing I'm doing, a game that I'm playing that I will not talk about, and beyond hints and such, not like this. And it's up for maintenance now, and this has been the thing that always keeps me going. This is the thing that eats up my time, but I need time to be eaten. And so now I finished up one of the computer games I played. It was really awful, and I'm installing another one. Yay. Means probably less. It's really kind of a pain. I intended to sweep my driveway today. It was kind of a pretty day, but every fucking day 3 o'clock comes, 4 o'clock comes, and I'm just dead tired. I just can't keep going. Do another lookup to make sure the terminology on the cards meets my expectations, and it does. For the Celtic Rights, the Dewey took that. It allows them to do a free command everywhere, which they did on battle. They wiped the Belgae out of here and took the Germans out, but they stay eligible. And that just means they go back here afterwards. That's what I had to look up. But the other option is, they go back immediately after they play the event, and then they're eligible for another action, which I was pretty sure wasn't the case, but I wanted to look at the rules and see, and there's a tip that makes it clear that this is the way it is to be handled. But it's hard to express the amount of information that's necessary on a single card, which is why the playbook is necessary. But it ends up being as heavy in terms of, hey, the events fill up as much space in here as they do in an EU type game. They fill a whole book and there's less events. And you still have to have all these cards. Just because, honestly, most of them don't have anything in the playbook that you actually need. They just give you some historical background. Anyway, the Belgae, remember they had set themselves up in a situation where they had a lot of different options. The problem is they didn't have money. So they did a raid operation, grabbed a lot of money, bankrupted the Romans, which is pretty huge. Now the Romans need to find money too. And got themselves a big enough pile that they can do more. Again, by spreading out the way they did, they were able to create a lot more money, but they have made themselves more at risk. And that moves the forced marches here, and everybody except the Belgae is on it. And sacking. The Romans can place a raised marker on a city or at Roman control, and get a bunch of money. And that city is gone permanently. I don't think that reduces the victory points, though. And a costly drawn-out siege. If a legion is where your citadel, remove the legion, and Romans are ineligible through the next card. That's a dangerous card for the Romans to have out there, but there are no citadels where they are, so it's not as risky as it could be. And let's see who's going where here. I think I missed it, but on video, but the Belgae were up to like 17 victory points, so I'd missed a couple of points on their track. That's really dangerous. The Averni take their action moving in. Now remember, they had been scouted, so their movement didn't flip them all. And they move in to threaten the Aedui, but also grabbing control here, did the entreat to grab one of the clans and got themselves into a better position. This also gets them closer to the Romans. Maybe they can attack a Roman and get some of those damn legions out of the way, because that's our limiting factor on victory points right now. The Aedui are left with the option of a limited command or the event. The limited command that they wanted to do was a move, so they took the forced marches event. They chose to go rather than pass because they're not going to get an action next turn either. So the system quite often just tells you what you have to do, you know, which makes me kind of happy. Dwataka. Heroic Roman defense, remove 9 Belgic or Germanic warbands from a region with a fort. Yeah. Okay, that's kind of interesting. That could happen. And Sugambri, strike an unprepared fort, march Germans to one region with a fort. They ambush Romans there, 1 loss per 2 warbands. It's nothing too special. It doesn't say they ambush if able. Again, one that I probably have to go look up and see. A couple extra words there would have worked, but there is room for that couple of words. They could have said if able, or they ambush Romans even if unable. You know, there's just about enough room to fit that on the card. But instead they leave it ambiguous, and now I look it up and maybe it's still ambiguous in the rules. And there seems to be a lot of ambiguity to the event cards in this one. Decided they're more interested in this one not happening to them. So they took a pass. They also need cash to pretty much do anything other than events. So that worked for them. The Belgae, however, took their main action. They did the battles. May not have been a wise choice. They got an ambush off, but it wasn't that impressive. You can see they haven't done too much damage to the Romans. They did kill a legion here, though, which helps the Averni. But overall, what they're doing is trying to clear out the problems in their back areas, including the Germans, so that they can do some real, you know, another expansion or something like that. I don't know if we're going to have time, though. The deck, yeah, they're going to get at least 1 or 2 more turns. But anyway, that moves these over. Let's see what the next card is. Marcus Antonius, Cav Commander. Romans may free scout and then free battle in one region, auxilia causing twice usual losses. Wow. If we were in position, that would be awesome. However, we're also not going to get that. To Roma's Caster, move up to 4 on map, auxilia to Provincia. Romans ineligible through next card. Executing faction eligible. That is a good way to paralyze the Romans and keep them from being a problem. Probably of most interest to the Belgae, although it might be to the Aedui as well. The Averni, who would normally want this, they're not that close to the Romans. Their points aren't near the Romans, so I don't know how much they want that, and they kind of don't. I don't know. Yeah, if they need to kill off legions, it might be the easiest way. So the Romans take this event. I'm not sure if this is wise or not, but they wipe the Belgae out of here. They do not want the Belgae to be able to make that kind of quick stab that they made a little earlier in this year. And And one way to do that is to get rid of their warbands. That's going to force them to do rally actions. Now, rally actions are something they want to do anyway because they got to get these things built up. But they got so many things they want to do and not a lot of time. And that's, that's a nice kind of pressure. A lot of people like that kind of thing in a game where you're faced with decisions. How do you optimize, Here, at least there's some uncertainty, so the optimization isn't obvious. Or, I don't mind when it's obvious. It's not calculable. I hate when you have to sit there and figure it all out and, calculate out all your routes. On the other hand, the Dewey, that gave them a full action. What they took, this is kind of interesting, they attacked here and did not use an ambush. But the Averni stuck around anyway to protect their two bases. Because the warbands back here aren't doing much except protecting bases. And then the Dewey cut a deal with the Romans for trade. Remember, they have the river commerce that allows them to score no matter where, so they don't need control as much. That would give them $5. They cut a deal where the Romans accepted the trade, so that makes it $10, but gave 2 of the bucks to the Romans. The Romans are very, very cash poor right now. They don't need a whole lot of money. They don't need money to move, for example, but they do need a decent amount of money to attack. And this looks like, it might just suffice to keep them in the game long enough that they can do the things they want to do. Kind of an interesting one. Romans or Gallic may free march into either or both Nervi or Treveri, and then execute a free command except march in one or both, and flip all friendly pieces there to hidden. Basically a forest ambush type situation. And again, one of the things is you can look at cards like that as being some of the sort of extreme die roll results or randomness in a combat type situation. The problem is that starts tinkering with time to me. I feel like the events are no longer happening sequentially, and that always disturbs me. I can do some hand waving to say, yeah, that's the case, but there aren't enough cards like that that allow you, a quick action or something to even compensate for that. So I think the base structure of the coin doesn't work to creating the massed battles properly, mainly because of the deterministic combat. Okay, so for this turn, the Averni are looking at Mark Antony. I could weaken this. I don't think I can get there. So it becomes less of an interesting option for me. Now, the problem is if I don't do that, well, then probably the Belgae are going to pass to get a full action next time because, but that will end up cutting off a Roman action. So that seems like a good plan overall to take a full action. Well, or a partial. I mean, if the Belgae want to get rid of, if they want to make the Mark Antony event happen, I'm fine with that too. That doesn't bother me one bit. So I might as well take the full action. What I do is assess the victory situation. And again, in this game, in all the coin games, you have to be assessing it constantly. But at this point, we're getting low in the deck. It's getting close. We have to make sure that we're in the lead, or near it. So the Averni are 2 off on legions, and clearly they have the 8 or more sections. So they're in pretty good shape. The Belgae right now, supposedly, are 4 off. Let me make sure that's correct. 2, they're hard to calculate. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 11. Maybe I have this miscounted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 11. Yep. I'm off on them. Which means they're fairly far behind and they don't have a lot of troops. I don't think they can catch up in the time provided. The Germans, they don't count. We'll skip the Romans for a moment. The Dewey are at 5 of these. And now this is where it gets tricky because they can't win the auto victory, but that's fine. 5, 9, 10. We're back 5 or 6. I think it's 6. because you have to exceed just like you do on the tracks. Okay, so they're 6 back, which is pretty bad too. Let's look at the Romans now. 10, 14, 16, 21. The Romans should be at 10. I have them way higher. Is that right? 10, 14, 16, 21, yeah. Okay, so they're only at 10. That means they're about 6 back. Right now I feel pretty good with the Averni. I want the game to end soon. I want to do something to solidify my position as well, whatever that is. A combination of rally and retreat. I steal something from the Adui, who are doing a little better than the Belgae right now. That, changes the victory conditions a little bit in my favor. I'm at 2 back. I'm doing the best out of everyone. I grow troops everywhere. That might be a little excessive because now I don't have a whole lot of money. However, I feel like, with a move action or something, I might be able to defend things if somebody moves in on me. That $2 should be able to help me protect things here. A little bit of extra defense there. The Adui can probably wipe me out of there if they want. They got to be careful though, because by doing that, they start boosting the Roman victory conditions if they start wiping out clans, and that's one of the balancing factors. Is you might be able to improve your own victory conditions, but you might be helping someone else more with any action, and that's usually not the case in these games. The Belgae pass because they need a full action. If the event wasn't going to help them enough, they need to do a full action, and that's going to be a rally. That's going to get them some victory points and push them closer. And also get them some troops that they can maybe do some stuff with. They can't grab this, which is one of the disadvantages to moving in there, but to the attack that they did there. So, put these guys here. Hostages. Among regions that you control, remove or replace a total of up to 4 warbands or auxilia with your own. That's kind of neat. Place a Gallic ally in any one warband in each of 1 or 2 subdued tribes where Roman pieces. That is a way to get a couple victory points for most players. That's really appealing, and to steal victory points from the Romans. And this might be the last card of the game, which means, if you're doing it somewhere like here, the Romans aren't going to be able to grab points from that. It's also a free way of doing things, which say if we were talking the anybody could do it actually, but if we were talking the Belgae here, they could, they'd have a hard call between, hey, what about, doing that, that rally I'm thinking of, that's going to get me 1-2, and some troops that, if the game goes long, might be worthwhile. But the other side of it is I have plenty of money, so that's not a concern. The other side of it is, though, I could grab 2 points here real quickly with that card. However, I want to take the action now because it means I probably, if this isn't the winter card, I don't know if it can be. We can count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That one cannot be. So I definitely get at least one more action. But the next card up could be the winter card, so it could be over very, very shortly. Your eyes aren't on what the events can do for other people. And that was the case here with the Arduna. The Belgae really wanted it. It turned out it allowed them to move some forces around, get those 2 points they wanted without spending any money. It uses the event, which means the next player gets a bonus, but it just seemed like the best of the options. Although with all the money they have, maybe not such a big deal, but whatever. Hiding the pieces was appealing. That left open for the Adui, who did a battle here, cleared things out. And I see the Romans lose 2 points here, but they gain 2 here. And this is the weird thing. So much of this game, your points are affected by somebody who isn't really trying to affect them. So like here, the Adui, especially with the Romans, the Adui are trying to get rid of the Averni. because the Averni are the cap on their victory points. Well, by doing so, they increase the Roman victory points. And meanwhile, the Belgae are swinging way back up, and now they're within 2 and are in the lead again. It definitely does seem to get more, maybe more chaotic than most coins do at the end here. I don't remember. It didn't feel this way with the other game I was playing, but there I had the Optimates card in play. So everybody was constantly trying to prevent that as well, which is an early end to the game if you're not winning. And that pulls this hostages over. Let's see. Legio X. It's like Malcolm 10. In battles that have a Roman leader and legion, final losses against Romans are -1. Final losses the Romans inflict are +2. On the other hand, Caesar attacking in battle doubles loss inflicted by only 1 legion instead of all his legions, if you take the other side of it. Capabilities are a waste at this point. We're close to the end of the game. You don't want to waste a turn on picking one of those up. Again, gives you a different game each time by the deck. That's a card that, if it happened early, would be very valuable. There are a couple of cards that aren't even in play that didn't make it into the deck at all. So, like with, say, Unhappy King Charles, there are some things that just will not happen in this game. Even if they could potentially happen because they get shuffled into the deck, there's just no way they would happen. Like this. This will not happen because of how late it came in the deck. It is just a turn determination card. So keeping an eye on the victory state again. The Averni, 2 points behind because of the legions, that's all. They moved their way from here into there. They only had $2. I could spend another $1 to entreat. That would be great, get another thing. It would be a warband in this case, although if I brought another warband with me, I could have taken the clan, which would be useful too. The problem is I need that extra $1, either to make an attack here or to defend something or whatever. I'm running out of gas. So I did a one faction command only, and I only did one command. I did a limited command. The Romans decided to pass, get themselves a couple more bucks in the gas tank. And the reason for that is we're up next on this. We really didn't want to do just a limited command here. Although maybe it would be enough, which is kind of one of the problems. But a siege or something like that could blast, something like the Adui fort away. So the special ability is probably useful. It's not like I have a lot of pieces on the board that I want to move. So a limited command might be good enough for me. Crap. Yeah, you know what? I'm thinking I get $2. Doesn't cost me anything to move. Yeah. I need to take the action, actually. Let me take those $2 off. I'm going to move into Mandibui, which is worth there's a lot of Roman victory points there. That'll get me a boost up towards where I need to be. Maybe not first place. Certainly not right now, but maybe if there's infighting, that'll happen. I don't know. Events meaning less and less the further we go. This next one also. Just not something somebody's too terribly interested in. The Belgae took a command only, mainly because their secondary abilities, unlike most people's, kind of suck. They did it to move themselves mainly into here, grab the 3 victory points for that. And that has them over the limit again, if my calculations are right. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 15. Not over, just below the limit. But at -1 instead of, wherever other people are. So they're in the lead right now. And the Adui, not much they can do. They're looking at not getting a command next time. So they did a rally, grabbed themselves one more victory point, essentially. So here we're looking at 9 minus 6. They're at -3, -4, which they're having trouble getting away from. They probably don't control this anymore. And there's a good chance the Romans are just going to wipe them out of there. Not much I can do about it. That brings the next card into play. And it is not winter either. Claudius Pulcher. Fucks with the Senate. And screws Roman up entirely. And gives the executing faction the next, gives them eligibility on the next card, which might be really interesting always. So, you know, possible. But winter's coming close. Assuming that I dealt all the winter cards in. Oh, the fucking Optimates are in here. They're the most interesting card in the game, and they didn't make it in. Okay. And we're getting close to the end. I gotta swap batteries. I keep thinking I did. The Averni, geez, what did they do? They destroyed a Roman legion here with an ambush, and the fort as well. That gets them up to 1 victory point, or -1 victory point, which is pretty cool. And then the Romans had to take a limited command here. They have a bigger one coming, but they're not going to wait up on it in order to destroy this, because they might get another action if they do this. That got them 3 more victory points, hurt the hell out of the Aedui. They're pretty much out of it. They're at like -6, -7 now. Whereas the Romans have gotten themselves up to 11, which is like -5, you know. The Romans really having trouble this game. And could be winter, is not. Oh, the flight of the Ambiorix. If Ambiorix is in a Roman-controlled region, who the hell is he? I think he's the yellow dude, the Belgae guy. Or Belgic victory is less than 10, remove him. But if he's not on the map, you can replace him as himself. So if you kill him in the game, he can come back as an undead. But if you don't kill him, he can return. I'm sorry, he might run away, but he will never be able to come back if he runs away. Ooh. I don't know what that's supposed to mean. Okay. Looks to me like the Belgae are pulling a victory out of their ass here. They took command in an action. Their command was a rally. They were 1 point away from victory. They picked up 1 more clan, pulled them up to 16. But then they did the Rampage ability, which I almost never use, right? And chased 4 Averni warbands out. Those had no place to retreat to, so they were just destroyed. And that gave them 2 more victory points. So now we're well above the line, and nobody else is above the line. The Averni are close. They're at -1. They're going to have a hard time doing better than that right now, though. They're +1 on... I mean, basically, I think their only choice is to try to figure out a way that they can hurt the Belgae. They don't have the next chip, though. And it doesn't look too promising. Their pieces are too spread out, too defensive. They were looking at, hey, we're doing okay, let's, consolidate. And they don't have any cash. They're really, really not looking at a good situation here. They don't have enough turns to manage anything. On the other hand, the Aedui probably can't do shit against anybody. They might be able, well, they would be able to grab this away from the Averni, from the Belgae, but why? They might be able to improve their own position somehow with a rally command or something like that and get another territory. It just doesn't seem to me their positioning isn't going to improve by knocking the Belgae down unless they can do it heavily, and I don't think they can. Interesting situation up. I remember when I was playing I think it was Russian Civil War, and I've mentioned this before, with a guy who took the attitude of, if I cannot win the game, I should have no effect on who the winner is. However, by playing that way, he had an effect, which is to say his choice was not to do anything with any of his pieces, which is something that, someone who's thinking that he will try to pursue his best interests and get the best placement that he can is essentially playing in favor of someone else. There's no way in a multiplayer game that you cannot have an effect, So what you should be doing is trying to improve. I mean, his philosophy was just absolutely obscene to me, Anyway, because I'm looking at the Adui and thinking, well, they could do a kingmaker type role here. They could do nothing. They could just pass. And that reminded me of what this guy did. And I'm like, well, in a sense, that favors someone, because all the assumptions that everybody's walking into in this is that they are going to pad their own victory points as well as they possibly can. Battery keeps fucking around here. It looks like it's charging. I'm getting the feeling it's not. I don't know. I keep swapping them. Maybe I'm just playing so hard that I'm not used to doing this. I'm used to wandering away, but I'm just playing straight through recently. And we're near the end. So the Romans were in one of those positions where whatever they do, they're going to affect things. And it's not really clear that there's much they could do to help themselves. They figured reducing the leader makes for a more interesting game. And means that they lose by less, So I moved into this area and took control of it away from the Belgae. That took 3 points from the Belgae, dropped them down, and now, after that, the Averni were able to move these guys in and take control of this away for another 2 points. So now the Belgae are actually 3 points down, and the Averni are only 1 point down. However, the Belgae do get another turn, not much of one, unless the Adui decide to help them for no apparent reason. My guess is the Adui will not do that. I mean, my feeling is you don't do a kingmaker move to just help somebody win without improving your own position. But, so for example, I wouldn't pass with the Adui here. Or I wouldn't set it up so that I wouldn't take the event just to remove some auxilia. That doesn't really help the Adui at all. However, I might not be opposed. I have to think about this. Would I be willing, is there any reason for me in particular to say just take a command action? Because none of these are going to help me, I don't think. Suborn, I cannot gain anything unless I move. Now, if I move into here, but I'm not allowed to move because it's winter. And that's the problem. So unless I could move, there's nothing that I can do. So basically, there is nothing the Adui can do. And the question is, from my victory standing, do I want to let the Belgae gain anything? What would the Belgae do with a complete turn? Well, they might boost their victory points up to the same level the Averni are at. But they might also be able to reduce an Averni position. What would that mean if they reduced an Averni position? Well, if they take some of these away, that helps me. I'd still be facing this 7, which, I'm going to be at -4 against. But on the other hand, the net victory point situation, these guys are at -1. The Belgae could push themselves above -1. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to limit the Belgae turn as much as possible by taking an event with a special action. I have the cash that I'm allowed to do that legally. I don't know what my action is. We'll do a rally and we'll suborn an Averni piece or something. None of that really matters. What matters is what I do with the Belgai. The limited command for the Belgai, there isn't a whole hell of a lot I can do for them. If I had a full command, I could do more. I could, for one thing, rampage again and drive one of these guys away, gain control of that. As it stands, what if I attack here? That would give me, I could not ambush. That would allow me to hit once, and then they would hit me once, and we still wouldn't have control. I'm not allowed to march. I'm not going to get my winter campaign in. I think the best I can do is a rally to gain 1 point. So I'm not going to get control of this. We decided I can't get that. I'm not allowed to move. So yeah, I thought I could do something cooler. But yeah, we'll rally. And it's got to be here because that's what we control. That puts us up to 14, I believe. All right. And now we count victory, and we do not worry about the winter. So let's look at the victories. For the Adui, 6 legions is a -1, and we meet the condition here, so we're at -1. For the Belgai, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8 is 14. We're at -2. For the Romans, I hate doing the Romans, but 9 and 8 is 17, 18, 19, 23. The Romans are at 8. Is that right? That seems bloody low. Like I lost count somehow. Is that right? 8, 9, 17, 18, 19, 23. Yeah, 8 points, which is like -8. And the Adui are facing these guys who are at 9, and we only have 4, so we're at -6, which means the Averni win it by 1 point. Close game, like many coin games are. I didn't feel like it came down to who got the edge on the last card or two, or where the winter card came up in position to things. I'm not sure. I still think that that's the case. Like, I think that this game is more resistant to that situation. In part because actions are less fluid. However, this final card, not having been a Belgai first card, meant the Belgai didn't win. So again, it comes down to that random event on the last card. So yeah, it does. It still does. How unreasonable is that? I don't know. Let me swap batteries so I can chatter a little bit more before this runs out completely. In terms of the capabilities for the different players, in a lot of ways, the Belgai have sort of the weakest capabilities in terms of, hey, their special ability isn't very good, usually no matter what. They're potent in battle. They have real advantages in a limited territory. And their victory conditions are kind of easy to achieve, I think. They have this capacity. Like I said, if the card had been different on the final, they would have won if they had gotten first pick on that card. And that is often the case, is one of the players does the player who has a chance at winning. Usually there's 1 or 2 players. Usually there's 2 players who are in close competition in the game. Quite often it's whoever gets this card. The Adui in this case were too far behind, like the Romans. So this game was getting run away with by 2 players, and there wasn't much that could be done about that. I do find the Adui particularly hard to win with, I think, because their forces are weak. So you have to be really, really clever to get them. Now, we had them in a position where they were close, though. It's not like, I don't think it's impossible for them to win by any means, but I think they may be the hardest faction to win with. The Romans are also kind of tricky just because everybody else is opposing you, but you might fall into a victory. Somebody might give you wipe clans out that you don't have control with. One thing you didn't see me do much of, maybe any, is using these. Those can help you. If you're doing well, they can help you stock the points away. I felt like the Romans were doing poorly all game. They never really needed to stock the points. Nobody was trying to get to knock the Roman points down. But they can also keep certain areas from being attractive and be used as a disincentive for people to move into areas just because there are no victory points to gain there. And then the flow of the play for the whole game could be changed there. So you can use those in a very strategic sort of sense early in the game to divert play to a different area of the board, I guess. The Averni, well, they won, so they got to be pretty decent. Yeah, I mean, I think the Belgae and the Averni are the easiest to play. The Averni, however, are hard. They have, I feel their victory conditions are more difficult because of the Roman legions. You have to do something about the Roman legions. And the first time I played, the Romans were doing pretty well. It was really a race between the Romans and the Belgae in that game. And I think the Romans actually won. I don't remember for sure. It was the short game, though. And I think, the point is that they can be really hard to kill their legions. And if they're able to keep the warbands down and keep the fight, keep anyone from being a real threat to them. And in particular, only the Averni want to kill the legions, but the Belgae need to kill them to save themselves if the Romans are intervening up there. So what we had here was a situation where the Romans went up and fought the Belgae pretty hard. And that meant that the Averni are able to maybe get some kills that they wouldn't get otherwise, because it's hard to kill the legions. It really is. I mean, the only way I was able to do it was kind of picking them off when they're off on their own with a fort or something, or when one's starved up here because it just got left alone. Basically, if the Romans can't keep their troops together, they have a problem. But keeping your troops together means you don't get as many victory points. Spreading them out means you get more victory points, but you're more vulnerable, and people like the Averni are going to pick off your legions. So it's a really, really there's a balance there that I certainly didn't seem to find here for the Romans in this game. The Germans, obviously not an actual player, but I feel like they have very little influence on this game. Their main power seems to be to annoy the Belgae, and the Belgae are the one people who can kind of use them for anything, So, like I said, the Belgae special abilities kind of suck. I like the other special abilities. I especially like the Suborn and Entreat, which allow you to grab victory conditions just automatically. For the main actions, I think the Rally is probably your biggest action. That's the one you want to make your goal, but you have to move in combat to make it work. So you end up doing most of them, and then, hey, what about raids? Well, quite often you don't get enough money over the winter to operate, so you need to do raids. So you end up doing all the operations. It's just the pace and the flow of them. There's certain ones that are more appealing than others, but in order to kick them off, you need to do the others. I find that I'm doing more of the primary commands more of the time in this than I do in most of the coin games. The Romans did not seize and recruit that much here. And that may be part of why I didn't do so well, because I didn't have as balanced a strategy as I could have. They had plenty of money. They certainly could have recruited troops. But it always feels like I got this kick-ass army that I want to move around, and I have enough auxilia to protect it. But I didn't have my forces spread out. Last time I had my Romans spread out more, and they did better. There's no question of that. And I got to tell you, the Averni didn't do as well either. They didn't kill off as many legions, so even spreading them out didn't really put that. The Aedui and the Averni were constantly at each other's throats, though, in that last game. And in this one, they're just sort of, they really want to hurt each other because the Adui victory conditions and the Averni victory conditions kind of go directly in conflict. Like the Belgae can win without having too many clans. The Averni need to have at least 8. 8 says the Adui cannot win. The Averni tend to have more. They have such a high capability. Anyway, I'm just babbling. Let's load this up before I come back and try to do a review. The review is so much less than what you get out of listening to the playthroughs, but at least you get the things that I remember, whatever actually sticks in this porous mind.